Welcome to Malcolm Reed's How to Barbecue Right, a podcast where we talk about barbecue, share recipes, and discuss all things delicious. And now, here's your host, Malcolm and Rochelle Reed.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Barbecue Right Podcast. I'm your host, Malcolm Reed, and we got a special guest with us here today. It's my buddy Dave Williamson. Now, Dave is a professional comedian.
Yep.
A serious barbecue enthusiast.
Yep.
Not only does he tour the country doing comedy shows all over the place, but you have your own barbecue podcast, and I know the Meat Dave podcast.
Yep.
Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, guys. I'm excited to do this. We've been talking about it for a long time. I've had you on my podcast.
Yep.
And I was doing a show in Memphis, and I was like, dude, I'm going to stick around for an extra day so we can finally knock this out. I can see you guys, say hello, and have some fun podcasting. So thanks for having me.
You're welcome, man. So did you come to Memphis for the barbecue, or are you here on business?
No, normally I'm here for Memphis in May. I've been twice now for Memphis in May, and I swore the first year I went, it was to do a show at Memphis in May. And
which is crazy.
It's I think Malcolm was the one who told me, like, I go, Malcolm, I had him on my podcast. I go, Malcolm, so someone's hiring me. I was doing the whole barbecue tour at the time. It was right as like things were opening back up after the pandemic around the country. And I was lucky enough to tour with Bert during the pandemic, doing the drive-in movie theaters and everything. And then I had a couple months off that were open in my schedule after that. And I go, man, I want to go hit the road hard and work my hour. And I'm like, but comedy clubs are so competitive right now. Everyone was trying to get back out on the road. Even people who are traditionally like big acts, hadn't performed in like 2 years or at least a year. So they were doing comedy clubs to knock the rust off. So I'm like, well, I got this barbecue thing going. I'm like, why don't I do comedy in barbecue restaurants? And I set it up for 2 months across the country. And one of the places was going to be at Central Barbecue in Memphis. And he told me, he goes, Craig, right? He goes, hey, man, instead of doing it at the restaurant, he goes, why don't we do it in our tent at Memphis in May? And I go, I've never been to Memphis in May before. I would love to see it. I go, I'm in, And I go, sounds awesome. He's like, yeah, I think it'd be really cool. And then I was doing my podcast, and I told you, hey, I'm so excited. I'm going to be in Memphis in May. I'm doing comedy in one of the tents. And he goes, you're going to do comedy in one of the tents? I go, is it a bad idea? He goes, well, it gets a little rowdy. But let me tell you, it went awesome. It was the Thursday night. Everyone was, excited for it. Just had a microphone right in front of the sidewalk, with the river behind me, the sun going down. Mm-hmm. And you were right. It was hectic. There was a bunch of music going to the tent on this side, a bunch of music going on the tent on this side. But about 5 minutes into my set, everyone could hear these people laughing. So then people going by on the sidewalk were stopping and watching. And then they asked the DJs to turn the music down so they could look over the fence and listen. So by the end of my 45-minute set, I had people all around just listening, and I just kept going and going. It ended up being a blast, And then I said I'd come back every single year, and I didn't make the year after, but I did make this past year. And I came and did a show here with you guys on that same tour. We did it right here in your facility.
So that's what caught my eye. When you told me we were going to do that, I was like, man, well, you got to come down to the shop.
Yeah.
And so you were going from, and some of them you did at restaurants, and some of them you just did at, private places, I guess.
Yeah, I did one at RecTech, and it was going to be for the public, and then they last minute were like, "Yo, what if we just cover your fee and we do it as like a employee gratitude night or whatever?" So they just threw a big party, cooked a pig, and I just did my show for 200 of their employees or whatever. And yeah, we did it here for your friends and people down here, and then I did the festival. I did in barbecue restaurants and just sold tickets to the public. I did it a bunch of different ways. Yeah, that ended up being a really cool thing.
That was when we first got the shop here, Shell. We first had opened up, and we were wanting to do
That's one of the coolest things we've ever done.
One of the coolest things I've ever done.
We set the bar high right out the gate.
Yeah.
Everyone asked when we're going to do another comedy show here at the shop because they had such a great time. We had, we got a little conference room. It's not huge, but it was packed. And man, you put on a good show.
Well, you know what we should do if we can make the numbers work, right? We'll figure out the formula. But what we should do is we should do something annually. And because all my comedy friends are so intrigued with the barbecue side of what I'm doing, and they always, when can we have your barbecue? When? Oh, I want to go do that. Oh, you're living life right. You get to go to the place in Key West and to the. They always see on my Instagram all the barbecue. So I've been trying to find ways to incorporate, the two together. I always try to find new ways. So I've started doing this show in LA in my neighborhood at this really cool rock and roll venue Once a month, I put like 4 or 5 of my really funny friends on the show. I host it, and I cook barbecue and sell barbecue out the back of the room. So comics get to eat my barbecue. The audience members come early to get barbecue, and then we have an awesome comedy show. I bet I could, if we could figure out the numbers, I bet we could do like a yearly thing where it's like the How to BBQ Right comedy show, and we do a big cook. Yeah, we do a big cook. Yeah. My friend, we I'm sure we could get an Airbnb down here, or we could house them, throw a big party. The comics, will be Instagramming and having a blast doing all this barbecue stuff, and then they get to do a show too. We could figure it out.
If we can find a venue, we can make that happen, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
we got a venue right here, man. This
you
works
think
fine.
that room's big enough?
I mean, I don't know. That's why I said we got to do the numbers.
Yeah. See, we're going to need your help on that.
All right.
The barbecue, I got. You don't worry about that. We just need to find a spot, and then we'll work the numbers out.
I got to tell you, I'm going to kiss your butt a little. I'm going to pander to the hosts, okay? People asked me that tour I did, that 2-month tour. They said, what was the best barbecue you had that whole time? And I go, I'm not even going to, because they're asking me to pick my favorite restaurant, basically, along that tour.
First off, how many places did you go?
It's been a while, but I think it ended up being like 20 to 25.
Wow.
Yeah. Like you said, though, they weren't all restaurants, But I will say I will pinpoint it to the best bite I had. And that was right here. You did a bone-out beef rib, I think, right?
Yep.
And sliced it up. It's a little bites, and then
there's Wagyu, though.
Oh, yeah. and you had the tallow, and you drizzled the tallow over it. And that one, I mean, it just hit so hard. I go, this was the best thing I had this whole tour. I knew it in the moment. Yeah. It was so good.
That's amazing. That was some good stuff. I can't take all the credit for that. I think Mark cooked it.
Mark did a lot of work that day.
But I will take the credit. So.
Mark was working hard that day,
Yeah, we had him working. But we did melt down the tallow on the pit. Like we just kept it on the pit and let it, just liquefy.
I'd never done it before. That's when I learned about, doing the beef tallow on the smoker.
Well, let's talk about, so how did you get into barbecue? Because, folks, Mark, you're from Florida.
I grew up in Miami, Florida, yeah.
But now you're West Coast.
I've been in LA about 10 or 11 years. Back then, when I was, coming up through comedy and really taking it serious and everything, everyone said, you got to eventually move to LA or New York. It has to happen if you want to make, it's very hard to make it from anywhere else. I mean, yeah, there are some outliers, but it's not typical, Now, that's not the same advice. Now you could do it from there's so many different comedy scenes around the country. You could catch lightning in a bottle with a podcast or YouTube, and you just got to be able to have an audience, But there's still some benefits for being in LA and New York. I mean, it's the big leagues. You can get up every night and be on awesome shows and just work on your material, and And sometimes you're a little bit out of sight, out of mind. So just being there and running into the people who produce stuff and whatever is definitely beneficial, But yeah, so I truly started up in North Carolina after college. I chased my girlfriend, who's now my wife, up to Charlotte. She had taken a job up there, and I was a big comedy fan. I really loved Saturday Night Live. I was a huge Saturday Night Live fan. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she said, "Hey, there's this place I heard about in town that sounds really cool, and I think you'll love it. I'm going to take you on a date." So, cool, let's go. It's a place called The Perch. Sketch comedy, little sketch comedy theater. Held maybe 80 people if you packed everyone in, right? And it was the coolest thing. It was just this super popular underground show that happened every weekend. And these guys would write their own sketches. They had a live band that would jam. And I was freelance writing at the time. I was trying to be a writer. And so I went up to him after and I go, "Can I write sketches for you guys? I want to do this." And they go, "We just write our own sketches. You got to try out for the group." And I'm like, "Well, I've never really performed before other than just being, a class clown and the guy who likes to tell stories at the bar and everyone listened to him, So I tried out and I got in. And I think the only reason why I got in is because I had a dependable car and they were about to have a road gig. Yeah, they were like, "We got a car to drive." "Don't you want to know about my comedy chops?" They're like, how many miles to a gallon you get? So I did that for 2 years, fell in love with it. And I dabbled in stand-up a little bit along the way doing that. And then my dad was, in the car business down South Florida. And he was like, "You're going to come in the business or not?" And I'm like, "All right." So I moved back to Miami. And my wife moved with me, And I was in the car business, so I couldn't do like rehearsals and go buy props and all these things. So I just started doing stand-up. And I would make sure Wednesday was my day off because that was the open mic at the Miami Improv. And I would just go do open mics. And then it just kind of was a hobby that turned into a career at one point. And I've been doing it for 20-something years now. But then 6 years ago, I got fed up at the barbecue I could get in LA because I was going to work. I was working the road a ton, and I always loved barbecue. Eating barbecue has been something I've been into my whole life. Cooking it, I never had ever, Like maybe I grilled some burgers. I was the dad on the steaks, whatever. But I went to Texas and ate, I don't know, probably at Salt Lick or somewhere. And, you know what? I think I went to Killen's in Houston. Yeah. It had just opened. And I was like, they just opened these places up here. They're amazing, And I went home and I went to the local barbecue place with my wife. It sucked. I told my wife, this is ridiculous. I'm teaching myself. And so I went to, I don't remember where, Lowe's or Home Depot or something, and I bought just some crappy offset I was on sale for less than $100. And I went home and I had no idea what I was doing, right? And I think that's around the time I think you were just starting to do YouTube videos a good bit. And so I remember in those early days watching it was just you in your kitchen.
The old yellow kitchen days. Yeah, that's it.
And it's funny because now everyone knows how to do it. And we understand algorithms and we understand but then it was just, you were just so relatable as a guy. And I remember you would talk a ton at the beginning. So you'd be like, I got this turkey at my local grocery store. Usually it's so-and-so a pound. Today it was on sale. And I was like, I feel like I know this guy because he's just telling me about his day, So
that was it, man. Because I didn't know what I was doing.
Dude, I mean,
still don't.
No, but we were all. It's the Wild West, Like we're just figuring it out. But it was great because I was like, man, I feel like
this fat guy can do it.
I mean, I learned. Yeah. I watched so much YouTube. I started buying books. When the last time I bought a book was? You
bought books on barbecue to learn. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was buying books. I was doing everything, and I got really into it. I mean, the first time I cooked on that offset, I put the charcoal in the firebox, but I put it on top of the tray. And then I got wood chips, not logs or anything, wood chips.
Yep.
And I put them on the drip tray in the chair. And I was
under
like,
the meat, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, let's go.
It's barbecue.
Yeah. I was just looking at it. That's what made sense to me. It was wrong. And what I noticed was I was so into it and I was enjoying it so much. And I'd be posting it on Instagram and I'd go out to the comedy club in LA and normally you have you run into all your comic buddies and the same people and they always have the same questions, hey buddy, you been on the road a lot lately? Are you going up tonight? What's new? Hey, you have a manager these days? You just talking shop. Nobody wanted to talk comedy with me anymore. All my comic buddies were like, I saw you posted ribs. Did you make those? How long does it take to make ribs? That's all anyone wanted to talk about, And I think I was right before the kind of social media barbecue boom. So now you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people were posting that stuff back then,
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, it's crazy how barbecue blew up.
Yeah.
I mean, we've kind of saw it because we were right at the forefront of it. But, social media wasn't what it was either. Mm-hmm. I mean, YouTube had just gotten started, so, we kind of got in that. And then
you had a MySpace page.
Yeah, we had we were doing barbecue on MySpace.
Who was your top 8?
Tom was one. But yeah, so that's, and then it's kind of escalated, but we hear that same story from everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how many people want to talk or relate to barbecue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big thing, man.
Yeah. I think the cool little niche that I had, and probably still do fall in this category, was that people were starting to recognize certain people as barbecue personalities, mm-hmm. right? But I think that I was not intimidating because, some people are probably intimidated to reach out to you and ask you a question because you've been doing it so long and they know you're an expert and this is what you do and you do it every day. And people still look at me and know that, and I'm very careful I tell people this, I do not consider myself an expert. I am an enthusiast that has gone way overboard with it, So I think I'm a little bit more accessible where people don't feel stupid asking me questions, right? Because they're like, oh, you didn't know what you were doing a few years ago either, So So I get a lot of that. Like a lot of people hit me up and ask me questions, or hey, I'm about to do a brisket for the first time. Do you have any tips, or what do I need to know? And I was so happy to be that person for people. And I got to the point where I was getting tired of typing it out every single time. So if a stranger that I didn't know, a comedy fan or a barbecue fan, would message me, Instagram had just added the FaceTime feature, I would just call them. And they'd be like, are you calling me on purpose? And I go, yeah, show me the brisket. And they're I can't believe you're calling me right now. And I'm like, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to trim it this way and that way. And like, first time I did it, I screwed up by doing this. Like, this is what you have to look for, And I would just talk them through it. It was so much more fun than typing it out.
Man, you help so many people doing that, I guarantee you. Yeah. I mean, nobody's doing that. Yeah. I've never FaceTime anyone to help them like that. We tried, but see, I did the same thing. I think when I first started, I was not a pro by any means. And so I just started cooking and sharing just the same thing that you're talking about. When people would ask you questions, heck, I was shocked they were asking me. So I wanted to tell them everything I knew and open up. So
I feel like that's kind of the, I don't know, the vibe these days. And it's the same in comedy and barbecue, where people don't keep secrets as much as they used to. I think back in the day in certain industries, everyone was like, sorry, you got to figure it out yourself. Like, I'm not going to give the secret sauce away. I think people nowadays with social media, and you realize like, hey, everything's at our fingertips anyways. So why don't I just help you and make it easy for you? People are pretty nice about sharing their knowledge and sharing their information. And, it was same with comedy. Like, comedians are cool with helping other comedians now. I think back in the day, they were like, no, you're competition, So that's kind of cool to see,
Oh, definitely. To us, it's a family. Barbecue people are some of the best people in the world.
Well, so that's what really was a turning point for me also, is that I started my podcast because I noticed that when I went to the comedy clubs, that's all anyone wanted to talk about was the barbecue, like I said. And then I was like, I want to ask questions. And when I'm on the road, I would always Google like best barbecue restaurant in Sacramento or top barbecue place in Chicago or what. So I was doing it anyways. So I would just reach out to that restaurant and be like, hey, can I interview your pitmaster or your owner? And so many people said yes. I was like, all right, cool, So I was sitting down for an hour and talking to people, and it's hard not to become friends, and you admire someone and you learn a lot about them. And so then I was just starting to make so many cool friends in the barbecue world. I was like even more excited about it. I'm like, oh, barbecue community is awesome. Like so many good people, so many people that are just like, if you're into barbecue, you're probably, I'll just keep making the comparison. Like if you choose to do comedy for a living, you're probably a pretty nice person because you're choosing to make people happy for a living, Barbecue is the same way. You don't pick barbecue because you like to cook, like that's it. You would pick something that's much easier to cook if that was the case.
Yeah.
You pick barbecue because it resonates with people. It makes people not just happy, it makes them feel special when they eat barbecue or they get really good barbecue, because that's not something everyone could do at their house. Everyone doesn't have 12 hours to cook a brisket and or the knowledge to do it right and not like mess up a $70 hunk of meat.
And this is the point where we talk about the best mayonnaise on the planet, Shell.
Are you talking about Blue Plate?
Quality since 1927, real mayonnaise from New Orleans, Louisiana, one of my favorite places. You even put it in that mac and cheese, don't you, Shell?
Heck yeah, it's my secret ingredient.
As for me and my house, we choose Blue Plate.
So you just got off a cruise?
I did. I did Bert's cruise. Yeah, Bert sold out in a whole cruise ship and made a comedy cruise.
What's a whole cruise ship?
Couple thousand people. Yeah,
ah.
Yeah. I don't know the numbers by heart, but yeah, it felt like 3,000 people. Yeah.
Was it a party that's the whole time?
Dude, it could not have gone better. Same thing when we're talking about community and whatever. Like having everybody on the ship there for a common goal was so cool. And everyone was so respectful. Nobody was like annoying, like comedy fan. Like everyone was like, Dave, you're killing it, brother. Hey man, can we take a picture? I don't want to I see you with your wife. And I'm like, my wife's like, trust me, he's okay taking pictures. Like he's loving this, And then one person came up and was taking a picture with me and everything. And then they go to my wife. They go, did you know Dave before he was a famous comedian? And she looks at him and goes, you know Dave before he's a famous comedian. I'm like, babe, you can't do that. I go, stop. Like, if they want to, say I'm successful, like, you got to go with it, babe. Come on.
So be it. Yeah. Let it out.
But yeah, it was amazing, dude. The crowds were incredible. Everyone was there to have fun. Everyone was a good sport about like the costume contest stuff. Like everyone brought funny costumes. We ended up the last day. We couldn't go to the island because the weather was bad. So they just out of the blue were like, "Hey Dave, will you host a 4-hour drink the ship dry pool party?" And I'm like, "All right, I'm here to work. Let's go."
Holy smokes!
The first like 30 minutes felt like work because I had the microphone. I'm trying to come up with like games and trying to get people pumped up. And then I started doing a contest, shotgunning beers. I bring people up on stage. The next 3.5 hours were a party. I was like, I'm having so much fun. It felt like back in the day, I always wanted to be one of those MTV spring break VJs.
That's exactly what I'm imagining.
So 45 years old with 2 kids, and I'm living my dream finally. Like, I'm just out there doing push-up contests and chugging beers, and it was a blast.
Did you have a dance-off or belly flop or anything?
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a separate belly flop contest. There was a Speedo contest. They did Bert's newlywed game, and I hosted that. There was a karaoke. The karaoke was, insane.
Then what was the average age on this thing, though? Was it an older crowd? Because when I think of cruises, I think of old people going on them,
No, it was exactly who you think Bert's fans are. It was 2,000 dudes who look like Bert. And a lot of them actually had their wives with them, and every single one of them married out of their league. And I'm just like, how does all these dudes get these like women that look like such normal people, And it was just a great, and the fans were making their own stuff too. The fans organized their own pub crawl on South Beach the night before, and they were messaging all the comics, and I check it out and I go, you know what? That's right down the street from our hotel where I was staying with my wife. I go, babe, I'm gonna go pop in on this. So I just popped in on the fan pub crawl, and they were like so grateful and so cool about it. I hit 2 or 3 bars with them. It was a blast.
Man, that's too much fun. There, man. I thought we had a fun job.
No,
no.
It's hard to like. You can't complain about anything. Like, there's nothing where you're like, oh, I got to go do that. You're like, that's the right attitude. This is my job. Like, I need to be so grateful for this.
Exactly.
Like,
I did see a video where you were belly flopping in Key West for the W sauce.
Yeah, Key West was blast.
I hate we missed that event.
You got to go next year, dude. Yeah. You got to go.
Well, first you covered yourself with the W sauce, and then you belly flopped.
Yeah. So they said, all right, there's going to be a belly flop contest, and you get a bonus point for it. And I'm like, well, I know the right man for this job, right? And I always have a Speedo with me. I bring my Speedo everywhere. And I had my USA Speedo. So I was like,
you might want to elaborate on that.
Well, I played water polo growing up, and I
it's like the way they feel on the boys.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the truth. But I like to swim for exercise, but you never know when you're going to need a Speedo. So I always have an emergency Speedo in my bag. So during the Rub and Tug down in Key West was an awesome barbecue event, fishing tournament, lobster tournament, barbecue competition / party, all for charity. And so this was my first official barbecue competition.
So you actually cooked in that one, huh?
I had a team, yeah. So I think there was only like 15 teams or something like that because it's the first year they're figuring it out. So maybe 15 or 20 teams, I don't remember. He asked me if I wanted to not just come and compete, but also captain my own team. So it was Team Meat Dave, and I had Jody from RecTech was on my team, and Roy Bellamy is one of the producers of the Dan Le Batard Show, which is a big Miami sports talk show that I've been a fan and friends of them for a long time. So Roy always talks about barbecue. He's super into it. So I just thought it would be a cool experience for him to come down and be a part of that. And then my son Owen, I brought him. My 14-year-old son is like our assistant or whatever. And truly our ringer when it came to the lobster diving too.
I was going to say, y'all had to clean up because you actually had to dive for those lobsters, right?
We do, and I grew up in Miami doing that. Like that was my thing growing up, spear fishing and diving, and my parents are big boaters, and like that was my life, And so I'm not afraid to say I'm very good at that. And it's just the luck of the draw, though, if you find the right spots. And we probably caught more lobster than any other boat, but they were shorts, so we had to just throw them back. It's really tough. It's opening day. So it's just everyone in the world is out there lobstering, and mini season is a few days before, and a lot of people go clean them out in mini season. So we had bad luck on the fishing tournament day. We had bad luck on the lobstering day. I thought that was going to give us a shot because you get points for everything. And I was like, guys, well, we got to bring it on the barbecue. And these, Heath's there with his team, and Mel, Dark Side of the Grill, and I mean, there's all these guys who
Chad was there.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys. Yeah, Meat Church, all these guys, legends, guys who have won all kinds of competitions and stuff. So I'm like, man, well, me and Jody, we had a little creative meeting the night before, and I'm like, look, we're not going to beat some of these guys that just straight up traditional ribs. Like, we're not going to beat them head to head. I go, we got to get creative. So we got creative on all our dishes, and we ended up winning the judges' blind taste test vote on 3 out of 4 of the categories.
Oh, congratulations,
man. Yeah. So can you tell us what you did, or is it top secret?
No, I'll tell you. I will tell you everything you want to know. So we did picanha was the one that we did. I think we placed third or fourth on the vote on that. And then I think we just did tacos with that. But salmon was one of them. And when I do smoked salmon, I like to do a glaze. Well, there was a rum company, I think it was Pilar Rum, was one of the sponsors for the whole thing. So instead of doing my usual whiskey glaze, I used the rum sponsor, made a honey rub glaze with that, and my own rub I put on there as well. And then, we dressed it up, and then my wife's been making a lot of mango salsa lately because my mom has a big mango tree in Florida, and she ships us mangoes. So I asked my wife for her mango recipe. So I did a mango salsa. So I had the salsa, the salmon with the rum glaze, some mango salsa all around it. And then I got a mango daiquiri just for a little garnish, put it in a little tiny cup and put it off to the side for the judges. They wanted to take a little sip of mango daiquiri. And that was my box that I turned in.
That sounds amazing.
Really
yeah.
And then we did a ribeye was one of the other ones. And so I knew a lot of guys would be doing chimichurri on the ribeye. One, just because it's delicious. Two, Al Fragoni was there. So his chimichurri, which is amazing, by the way.
Really good. We use it all the
so
time.
good, yeah. It was in the swag bags. So I'm like, I know everyone's got a bottle of this stuff. So everyone's going to be using it. So I go, we need to make our chimichurri a little different. So we were shopping at Publix. Publix is a very iconic grocery store chain for Florida. They have pub subs, which is the subs that they make in the deli in the back. Very famous, right? At Publix. Like if you go to if you're in Florida, you go to Publix and you get a Publix sub. Well, they have this pub sub sauce, which is basically just a mix of oil and vinegar and some spices, right? So I bought the actual pub sub sauce and I used that as my base for the chimichurri. And so it just had a little bit of a local storyline there, right?
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, it really is.
Came out really good.
Yeah.
Came out really good.
So we go down. It's in Orange Beach, but it's in Alabama. They have a Publix. Man, that's that's one of the nicest grocery stores.
I miss
I've ever been
Publix so much. I
wish we had
Publix
them in
so
Mississippi.
much. Yeah. So and then I also did, instead of just turning in the bites of the steak, we got some onions and some gourmet mushrooms, and we cooked them down in the coals and some tin foil of the Big Green Egg. Everything was on Big Green Egg. And so, it kind of spiced our box up a little bit, I think, made it look nice.
Y'all went all out, man.
Well, then here's the headliner, the ribs. So when I cooked for Bert Kreischer, I opened for him a lot. We were just talking about his cruise. When he was going over to shoot his movie in wherever he shot it, I don't even remember.
Did he go to Russia to shoot it? Or
no, it wasn't Russia. It was not Prague. Serbia, maybe? Serbia? I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
He was going to go leave for a few months to shoot his movie. So he was doing a big going away party. He asked me if I'd cook barbecue for it. I'm like, sure. So as a joke, I made one rack of ribs and I made them Bert style. So I used Kool-Aid in the rub. I spritzed it with vodka instead of apple cider vinegar. I chopped up some Sour Patch Kids and sprinkled them on top, right? And then the sauce I used, he loves Uncrustables, which are those peanut butter and jelly little thing. So I pureed some Uncrustables and then slow cooked it into the sauce, basically. So it ended up coming out real peanut butter and jelly tasting, So I put that online. Everyone thought it was hilarious, and it was a good video.
Did they taste good?
So surprisingly, I thought they were going to be disgusting, right? Since they were steaming in the Cambro for a couple hours on my way over there, right, until we ate them, the candy of the Sour Patch Kids actually melted, like into it. And it actually tasted pretty good. It was like a sticky rib, like you would eat, like an Asian sticky rib.
Did the citric acid from all that come through? Like you could taste, because I mean the sweetness.
You could taste the peanut butter and jelly, and you could taste the sweetness 100%. So it was really good, but you couldn't eat more than 2 ribs.
Yeah,
because it was just too overpowering, right?
But it's so unique compared to everybody else probably doing just regular barbecue ribs. Y'all were out of the box.
So then when I went to do my show at RecTech, my buddy Warren Sapp, from the NFL, Warren Sapp.
Warren Sapp.
Yeah. He met me up there and hung out for the weekend, and we were doing content. And so Jody says, Dave, I saw the video where you made those ribs for Bert. And so we came up with a recipe. We want to do a version of that. We're going to do peanut butter and jelly ribs. So we did this peanut butter and jelly ribs recipe. It came out really good. And so Jody and I both have cooked a bunch of peanut butter and jelly ribs over since then. And, Jody's really perfected it, So that night when we were coming up with our ideas, I go, Jody, I know this is really out of the box. I go, but what if we do peanut butter and jelly ribs? And Jody's like, I was thinking the same thing. So I'm like, all right, well, that's what we're going to go for. And let me tell you, they were insane. They were so good. And so we got the first place judges vote on that. So we ended up coming in second place because there's also a people's choice. And I don't know. I feel like we didn't have the best booth position for that. We should have been –
you need to be where the crowd is.
Yeah. And plus, there's some of these guys who are really good at it, man. Like the WSauce team, dude, they had a dream team of dudes down there, TFTI, and, Mel was there, and I can't remember who the third was on their team, but they, maybe it was Bama Grillmaster. So they had some.
Worked the crowd.
Not only that, but they just had amazing chefs on there, like they had a dream team. And so, anyways, we're pretty proud. We came in second overall in those 3 categories. Pretty neat.
And you beat Heath Riles with a peanut butter and jelly rib?
I mean, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
But it happened. Yeah. But it happened.
Yeah.
But it happened.
Well, I wasn't going to beat him with traditional ribs, like that wasn't going to happen. So people liked it. Yeah, it was good. And then, normally you take your box and you walk down and you turn it in, right? And I was just running stuff back and forth. I go, for the last one, the ribs, I want my whole team to come. Let's go. Make a big deal out of it. Make everyone feel part of it. So, and then you come back and you start serving stuff up for the fans, the people coming through. Well, we went, and when we come back, everyone was so intrigued watching us cook these peanut butter jelly ribs. They had already reached over and started slicing it and eating it. So these jackals just ran through.
Oh, man.
And I was like, I don't have any ribs to serve people to. But I had a bunch of the peanut butter jelly sauce left. So I was we had some extra steaks and some extra, some other stuff that was in the cooler. I just started cooking other stuff and pouring peanut butter jelly sauce on it. And I'm like, so you can just taste what our ribs taste like. And people were like, this is awesome.
There's peanut butter jelly, everything.
Yeah, I need to bottle that stuff, dude. I need to bottle that stuff for sure. So anyways, it was really fun. I'll do it anytime they ever invite me. I plan to avenge my loss at the lobstering. And then I also am going to avenge my loss at the belly flop because I ended up coming in second place. Even though I had my Speedo, even though I had the pageantry, even though I had a pretty good plunge, and then in the finals, I had to one-up it. I think you were alluding to this earlier. So I grabbed a bottle of WSauce and I poured it on my body, and I rubbed it in real good. And then I did my dive, second place.
What beat you? Bigger guy?
A dude who had a really good dive.
Yeah.
They were definitely going for they weren't going to be wooed by the peanut butter jelly ribs. They were there for whoever was judging the belly flop was looking for technicality.
They didn't want flair.
Yeah.
I'd went for the flair.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the way most people feel. Yeah.
So did you get to cook any lobster?
So yeah, we did. So the one of the days, the lobster day, they set up this whole party out on the sandbar. So it was so cool, man. It was just in the middle of the ocean, sandbar, and they put all these tents and big green eggs out there and tables, and then they just had a bunch of protein. So we were cooking up the lobster we caught that day and then some steaks and stuff like that, just out in the middle of the ocean. And as time went on, we're out there partying, the tide's coming up. So people's buckets are floating away, But you're literally at one point, the sandbar was gone, and we're just cooking with water up to our knees. And it was just, I'm like, this is surreal. I'm like, this is so crystal blue waters. drinking beers, smoking a cigar. I mean, it was so fun, man.
That's worth the trip to get to. I've never cooked in the water like
man.
that.
Did you see the pictures? They're so cool. I will show you pictures. It's the neatest. And then some people from the mainland who were just knew about it, just took their boat out. Were walking around eating for free. I mean, it was a fun party, man.
You got to get lobster recipes you can share for the.
So, yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, we went lobstering. It was always just about you split them, you throw them in some boiling water, and you make sure you don't overcook them, and then you dip them in a ton of butter, Now that I know a little bit more, I think there's no wrong. Lobster's very easy, first of all. It doesn't take very long to cook. And any way you want to heat it, whether it's smoking it, whether it's grilling it, whether it's boiling it, you can get it there. Just the most important thing with lobster is not to overcook it. You can overcook it so easily. So you just got to get it when it's see-through. You got to get it right to when it first turns white, and then you're good to go. And you could clip into it, and if it still looks a little see-through, you can put it back on. But once you overcook it, it's overcooked. That and then just a ton of butter.
So nothing special, really, just the temperature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I think something that you can get more creative with is conch. Conch is really fun. Mm-hmm. Conch, you could scorch it. You just score it basically, and then you put some lime on it or some hot sauce and leave it out in the sun for a minute. And they do that right off the boat, and then the acidity almost like cooks it a little bit, and you just bite right into it.
I love conch salad.
Yeah, they call that. So then the conch salad, they take it the same way. They scorch it like that, and then they dice it up, and then they get bell peppers and whatever, tomatoes, whatever you want. And that is a huge debate. Like certain circles might like debate the right way to do potato salad, and there's certain things.
Brunswick stew.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, in the Bahamas, that's all about conch salad, man. Someone will look at your conch salad and go, "Oh, you cut your conch in strips? Trash." And they're like, "What do you mean, man? It's all delicious." They're like, "Nah, that's not the right way to do it." Or or how many peppers you're going to put in it and how spicy you're going to make it. Like everyone's got their opinions,
But it's so refreshing. That's what I mean.
So good.
Love it.
When you say scorch it, what is that terminology?
Like slightly heat it? Or?
So scorching is when you it's just what they call it when it's basically raw,
Okay.
So you literally score it, first of all, and then you just rub some lime on it and if you a little hot sauce, and then they call that scorched conch. So you just like cook it just like that. Just
you let it sit out. You don't really cook it. The juice of the lime, the acidity is cooking it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's pretty much like ceviche.
It's exactly like that. But you have the little handle of the conch, the little foot, and you just use that. You just you rip it off and eat it.
You swallow? Do you swallow the pistols? The
pistols. That's a rite of passage when you're a kid and some old Bahamian guy goes, "This will make your Peter hard." And I'm like, "You're like, I don't have any problems with that as is."
What was the dude's name in the Bahamas that we got the Eddie Rock. Yeah.
But then my mom always had world famous conch fritters. My mom made the best conch fritters.
I love conch fritters.
Too many conch fritters. It's too it's too much of the dough, not enough conch.
Mm-hmm.
My mom puts a lot big chunks of the conch in there.
Same thing with crab cakes. You got to have crab.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I don't know. She's perfected it over the years, and she's entered them in some of the friendly contests over there in the Bahamas and everything, and won them before, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, man, I just love that whole. That's how I learned about cooking. Like seeing my dad cook like smoked amberjack, or my uncles would score a big dolphin or something, a mahi, and seeing them cook at these like family gatherings, like that's where I was like, oh, like the dude could be the cook too. Like I did, like oh that's cool, like and I was into it like steaks and stuff like that, but I never knew that I could have a smoker, and like I thought you had to like grow up in Texas and your uncle had to give you one when you were 9, and that's the only way you could get into barbecue.
Some secret recipe passed down. Yeah, you could probably cook better fish than a lot of the barbecue guys. Sounds like
heck yeah, I bet you could.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't. I'm not like up to speed on it because I haven't lived there in so long. So, but it's all the same, right? You just find a recipe, you follow it, You don't overcook it.
That's my problem with fish. It's so easy to overcook. Mm-hmm. So I end up screwing it up. That's people when I get asked, what's the hardest thing you cook, or do you ever mess up? I was like, yeah, anytime I'm cooking fish, I'm messing up.
Well, I'll tell you, I did not like salmon growing up. Right, it wasn't big in Florida, first of all, right?
Yep.
And I think anytime I ever had it, I didn't have like it done well, so it always tasted fishy to me, and I'm like, that's gross. And then my wife would cook it, and as an adult, and I'm like, oh man, this is actually pretty good, and I know it's healthy or whatever. So when I've gone into smoking salmon, I was like, man, this is so good, And when I'm on the tour bus with the guys, that's actually their favorite thing that I make. Forget about brisket, forget about pork ribs. They're like, dude, Dave, will you make some more salmon?
So you taking a grill or a smoker on the road with you when y'all travel?
So when I first started touring with Bert, when he made the leap up to theaters, we got the tour bus. We started doing the tour bus, and one of our first weekends, I was just starting to really get into all this barbecue stuff. I would say I'd been into it a couple of years. I was just starting to get good. Let's put it that way. And RecTech came to our show in Atlanta at the Tabernacle, and they had sent Bert a smoker to his house. So Bert had a relationship with that company, and Bert was doing all these things about like he's the tour bus king, and him and Tom were going back and forth. So they brought him the little Trailblazer smoker, travel smoker, so he could put it on the bus as like the tour bus king. And I was so intrigued, and I was like, we had all these celebrities at the after party, and I didn't care about any of them. I was just talking to the RecTech guys. I'm like, so wait, so then I could just set it up outside the tour bus, and whatever.
Yeah.
So there was no reason for me not to use it. I was using it all the time on the tour bus, and we were touring really heavy back then. So
you'd hit town and go get some meat and just go fire it up.
Yeah, I'd go pick it up from somewhere. I like to find butcher shops when I'm on the road too. But then, like, when Bert started putting it on his Instagram, like, oh, yeah, we're cooking outside. I'm the tour bus king. We tailgate for our own shows or whatever. Then the fans would start, like, reaching out and being like, hey, could I drop off some meat to you guys? And we're like, sure. So it was so fun. Like, people who share that passion were like, oh, I got this from my local butcher shop, and I can't wait to watch you on Instagram cook it. And so, yeah, half the time I didn't even have to source it. It was people reaching out who were just, like, really into the fact we were doing that and wanted to help out.
That's
genius.
so cool, yeah.
You get all the best meat, stuff to cook while you're out on the road. Then you're feeding the guys.
So what's your salmon recipe?
It's just that, like I was saying before, I like to do like a little bourbon and some honey, and then I just throw some whatever rub I have in there. I have my my rub's pretty good on it, and then I just whisk it.
Where can folks get your rub?
DaveWilliamsonComedy.com.
There you go. Get a shameless plug.
Yeah, it's an all-purpose seasoning and rub. So even if you're not into cooking barbecue, which you probably are if you're watching this, it's still good on like your eggs in the morning. It's good on like if you're making a sandwich, put it over the tomatoes. It's good on macaroni.
Salmon,
salmon, steak, chicken. But then if you're going to use it for ribs or brisket or some more surface area, I tell people I like to do about 80% salt and pepper, about 20% my rub. It makes a nice little base to go with it,
Dude, there's got some flavor to it. It's not just salt and pepper.
Yeah,
a lot of APs, like my AP, I got one salt, pepper, garlic.
Yeah.
Simple, but yours is like you call it all purpose. It's really it's not like a salt pepper rub. It's seasonings, flavors, got some heat.
Paprika, it's got some red pepper flakes in there.
Yeah.
Some garlic, some onion.
Coarse, I like the coarse grind of it too.
Yeah, that was important to me. Yeah, because that way you could sprinkle it on something, but you can also use it as a rub.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm mad scientist. If I want something to be a little finer, then I grab another rub that's fine and I mix them together.
That's what I love experimenting with different rubs and flavors like that,
Sure.
and mixing stuff instead of just picking just one all the time.
Yeah. So I put the glaze on the salmon, put it back in the fridge for an hour, and then put the smoker about 275. Throw the salmon on there, and then you just keep an eye on it. And when it gets to about I want to say maybe 140, somewhere right around there, and you see the little white bubbles coming up, then it's time to pull. And I think the glaze really helps keep that moisture inside. I think that's the secret, and it's just super moist and delicious, But
have you ever played around with some cold smoked salmon?
I haven't gotten into that. I mean, I love eating it.
I love it. Little cream cheese, little bagel.
Yeah. There's still so much stuff that I haven't done, like I haven't done that. I haven't made my own jerky. Some people were telling me about smoking ice. Have you seen that?
No.
They smoke water to get the smoke flavor in the water, and then
I see that.
And then they freeze. I mean, there's so many things.
Cocktails?
Yeah, to put in a whiskey.
I am not a fan of the smoked cocktails. I've had them, and the smoke, I mean, I get why people do it. It's cool and all to come out. They light it up at your table or whatever. The bartender does all this stuff to it.
Yeah.
That's one place that I don't think smoke goes with. Have your smoked in your meat and then the whiskey on the ice on the side. The flavor's so much better.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just my,
So I think it's cool at the restaurant just because it looks cool. Yeah, the pageantry of it. And I got something special. Yeah. But I don't know how much it really adds. Yeah. So, but the rub's been a lot of fun, man, doing the getting into that. I never wanted to do that because I didn't want to, like I said, I'm very respectful of people I look up to in the barbecue world, and I don't want to be like, oh, I'm better than you, and I could buy my rub over that part. Like, I'm like, why would someone buy my rub when there's so many other? But so many people hit me up and asked me, and it was the number one question I would get when I posted something. They're like, what'd you use as a rub? And I'm like, literally, it's just salt and pepper and whatever else you feel like that day. It's all you need to know. You just got to get kosher salt and coarse pepper. You'll be fine, right? And people are like, cool, where can I buy it? And I'm like, the grocery store, And so, people just wanted to click and buy it. So I go, well, I'd usually send them like Your Link or Meat Church or whoever, like here's great rubs out there. Check them out, see which one talks to you, And then finally I'm like, you know what? If people really want it, then I'm going to make it and I'm going to look into it, because people just kept asking me. And what I did feel comfortable about was what I am really good at is cooking on the road. And I done it on the tour bus so much, And then even now when I go do my own shows, like I borrow a smoker and I'll cook out on the loading dock at the barbecue at the comedy club, and we'll sell it we'll put pulled pork on the nachos that night at the comedy club. And, people will get to eat my barbecue, So I'm really good at just sourcing whatever they have in the kitchen and coming up with something. And when we did the pandemic tour, I couldn't bring, we had so much stuff on the bus because we weren't like flying back and forth. We were literally just living on the bus for 2 months, So I can't bring all my rubs for different things that I cook. I need to make one big vat that would kind of go good on everything. And so that was basically this recipe. I just made all this something that I could just sprinkle on whatever I was cooking, and it would be all right. And so I go, well, that's my product. I go, I'm going to sell that. It's an all-purpose one that you could literally use. If it's the only bottle you have, you can make it work. So that's what
it works.
Yeah,
if it works, it's good stuff.
It's so fun too because like comedians always sell T-shirts or hats or their CDs, and like you sell it and it just disappears. But with the rub, people cook with it and they tag me and I get to see what they're using it for. And it's like a cool connection with people who have been to one of my shows, And
it's some merch people can actually go home and use.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's a merch that if they really like it, they buy it again and again and again.
You only buy so many T-shirts and hats, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Buy a bottle of rub every month. It's that good.
100%, man. People tell me they like, like, how do I get your rub? Like, I need to come to a show and I need to, because I'm about to run out and I'm addicted to it and I have it every day. And I'm like, you can get it online. Just go to my website,
Where's the coolest place you got to cook?
That island was pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I guess we already covered that. You get to cook on a sandbar and the tide comes up and you're in
Key West.
And we're talking about the prettiest blue water you've ever seen down there. I mean,
it was pretty cool doing the first fully loaded tour that Bert put together, where it was minor league ballparks. So the idea was he wanted to show his comedy friends kind of what his tours are like, but at the same time he wanted to do something for the fans and like give them experiences of how we tour. So there was like tailgate areas with the disc golf and there's all kinds of just different like Burt branded stuff going on, and so I was running the tailgate area. And so I would just figure it out as we went. I would source meat, or I'd take an Uber to Costco real quick, and whatever time we got in that city, I'd pull the Rectex out, and I'd go to town, cook it, whatever I could. And then from 5 to 7, when they opened the gates, I would just give barbecue away for free to the fans, and sit out there and play cornhole. And then
Tough job.
And then I'd run up and I would host a 4-hour show, and then I would run back and I would clean my barbecue station up. And then load it up and then go to the after party. And then sometimes I'd cook for the after party. And I mean, that was an intense 2-week tour of just cooking and doing the comedy. But it was really fun because these minor league ballparks, I had some really cool places that I would set up to cook. So it was pretty neat.
You got to talk RecTech into getting you a full blown RecTech barbecue trailer where all that stuff's in. They met us at one of the venues and they pulled up with their big giant trailer and air conditioned, I knew they had walk in and everything. So that was an easy day. I was like, you guys are doing all the work. I'm just going to be out chit chatting today. Like I need a break, Fully functioned kitchen inside. I mean, it's just everything you need.
Yeah, I love it. That'd be great.
You can stay on the road like that.
Well, that's so the barbecue tour I did, I was driving my SUV and then I had a travel trailer that I had wrapped with my picture holding up ribs and everything. And that was kind of my branding. And I was sleeping in it. So that was the funnest part of that was some of the barbecue restaurants, instead of staying at the campsite, I was just staying in the parking lot. So we'd pull in, I'd plug into the restaurant, we'd get ready for the show, do the show. I got to have beers after because I didn't have to drive down to the campsite or whatever. So sit out there, have beers with a lawn chair and a cigar. And then, the night shift would come on. So I'd walk into the pit master's, little area and just say, hey, what's up? I'm Dave. He's like, yeah, I know who you are. I've seen your posters up, all month. And he's like, I just hang out with him and learn from him. And
night guys are the best.
Yeah.
That's what I used to love.
They got some stories, dude.
Oh, man, that's where it all happens.
So then I go pass out in the trailer and then I'd wake up in the morning and the morning shift will be there prepping the sides and stuff for the day, and I'd be brushing my teeth in the kitchen, and I'm just like, "Good morning," I was living in barbecue restaurants.
They just gave you free reign. Most places just gave you free reign.
Yeah, man, you know how barbecue people are. They're like so late. Yeah. They're like they're so happy you're there doing something different and cool, and yeah, man. Half the time they were up with me, half the night,
partying too.
Yeah. Well, it was a blast. I just can't do it like that again because I was aggressive. I was doing all the driving. And then we'd have to set up here you had the place set up. It was good to go because this is you weren't serving food like a restaurant and then have to flip the room, Like here you were like, oh, we're having a party tonight. We're going to have it ready. We walk in, we do it, and it was easy. Most places it was, okay.
You're moving tables and chairs and all that too?
Yeah, because even if they set it up, like they didn't set it up the way I wanted it. So then me and my two producers that came with me, we're moving stuff around and setting up lights, and now I got to go change and get ready. And I mean, it was old school touring, dude,
That was, and you did that for 12 weeks. How long was it? It was a long time.
It was a solid 2 months.
Yeah. I knew it was a good tour.
I think I was gone. Literally, my wife flew out and met me in Pennsylvania because I had one weekend off and we went to a wedding and I took her up to Niagara Falls. Other than that, I didn't see my family that whole time. I was just like, I remember back in the day, there was a time when the longest I had been on the road and not see my family was maybe like a week or something because I went to go work a cruise ship or something, right? And fast forward to now, I'm just like, man, I thought it would be like less time as I got more progressed in my career. Now I'm like,
it's more.
Yeah, I'm like, Daddy's going to be gone the whole summer. See ya, So we were gone a long time.
Are your kids old enough to take your family with you if you go on a summer tour now, or how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, my oldest son's a junior, my younger son's in 8th grade. And we try to do stuff where they come with me every now, but everyone's got a busy schedule. They're playing sports, school, friends, but yeah, I mean, we're pretty good at it. Like, look, when I was in the car business and my kids were little baby, I was never home. I was at work all the time. And when I was home, I was a zombie. I was so tired. So now I might be gone on the road a lot, but when I'm home,
Yeah, you get a little more flexibility.
100% dad,
yeah. And you could, do cool stuff. Like sometimes if I know they're gonna have like my son had a soccer tournament in Vegas. I just booked gigs in Vegas that weekend. So I was a dad all day, and then I was going and doing my shows at night. So I did do before all of this. I should say my earliest experience in all this kind of touring or whatever, way before the tour busts with Bert, and way before my barbecue tour with my trailer. When we moved from Florida to LA, my kids were about 2 and 4 years old. And my wife and I came up with this idea, and we bought a 25-foot travel trailer. And at the time, I knew nothing about RVs or I knew boats, but I didn't know anything about camping or, travel trailers or pop-ups and any of this stuff. Campsites, I had no clue. And so we just came up with this idea where we're going to tour for 3 months in the travel trailer, and I'm going to do shows along the way. We're going to get to LA, and then we'll move there, right? So we do that, and then we get to LA. It actually took us 4 months. And I worked the whole time. And it was so fun. It was like every club was my home club because I go do my shows and then I'd get in my car. I'd drive out to whatever beautiful campsite we were at and we'd go hiking during the day and we'd cook out in the campsite and I could sleep on my own mattress on my own pillow. And so it was really neat, right? And then when we got to LA, my wife said, we're just starting to get good at this and I'm having a lot of fun. And I'm like, so do you want to like keep going? She goes, if it makes sense. So I start sending out messages, whatever, and I booked up more work. We ended up living in a 25-foot travel trailer for a year and a half. We went coast to coast 3 times. We went north to south awesome. 3 times. And I was never better at comedy than during that year because I was just working constantly. And my family was with me the whole time. It was a blast.
You were van lifing before anybody.
100%. Absolutely.
Before it was cool.
Absolutely. We were totally living that lifestyle. Now it's like all like gentrified.
Yeah.
Like van life.
Yeah, that's
like,
it. That's it.
People couldn't wrap their brain around it back then. Because once again, it was before you saw a lot of that on Instagram. Yeah. Like, oh, people couldn't wrap their brain around. Like, people were like, we'd visit people along the way, and they'd tell Christy, like, do you need help? like,
are you hostage?
Yeah. She's like, no, I'm having a blast. She's like, this is the most fun I've ever had.
Cult?
Like, yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is that everyone would always be like, do you need to come over and shower? And we're like, we have showers. We're fine. We'll come over and use your washing machine. That'd be great. Like, it costs a lot with those quarters in the campsite,
Yeah.
I'm like, we'll come over and hang out and use your washing machine, but we're good on showers. Like, we're not homeless, like our home just has wheels. That's all.
So are you going to be home next week for Thanksgiving?
So from here, I go to North Carolina and I'm doing a casino run. When do you think this podcast will come out?
Probably this week.
Thursday.
Yeah. All right,
or Friday.
Thursday or Friday.
All right. Yeah. So if you're watching this right now and you're somewhere near Cherokee, North Carolina, come on out to the Harrah's Casino, I think it is. I'll be there through the weekend. And then from there, I go meet my family in Indiana. We're going to do Thanksgiving at my wife's family's house up there.
Okay, so neither one of y'all are from California at all.
No, I grew up in Miami, and she grew up in Indiana, and we met at Auburn in college.
Because I wanted to know, what are you doing in California for Thanksgiving? Like, is everybody cooking turkeys? Are they on tofu? What's the what's the hippies cooking out there?
So definitely, I normally smoke a turkey, and I'll tell you, I love smoked turkey, and I think I've been I don't think I've ever messed one up, Like, I hit it out of the park pretty regularly.
And it's got so much easier in the oven or deep frying or any of that to me.
Dude. So I used to have this big gravity-fed smoker, right? It was a company called Assassin.
Yeah, I remember I've heard of those.
Yeah, awesome. It was my first big smoker. It was a really great smoker. So I wanted to do a really big turkey, and my buddy who was working for this meat company was like, dude, I got 2 turkeys left. He goes, but you got to buy both of them. He's like, because they sell them as a pair. And it's just these big,
24 pounds.
Yeah, what size are we talking?
Really? Yeah. It was at least 25 pounds. Yeah, big turkeys. So I'm like, well, I don't need 2 big turkeys like that.
50 pounds of turkey.
So sometimes I throw it up on my my neighborhood Facebook page that I'm cooking barbecue. I have extra. Does anyone want some? And I always sell whatever I have, right? So I threw it up there. My buddy hits me up. He's like, dude, I'll buy that turkey from you. I go, cool, man. I'll cook it, and what time do you need it ready? Well, I put him in, and then he calls me up, and he's like, hey, man, I need that turkey later, And I was like, all right, no big deal, man. So I got mine done, and I just slowed his cook down, And I'm like, it's fine. No worries, In the 20 minutes I went to go next door to eat with all my neighbors and whatever, I had some sort of a flare up in the smoker. And I come back and I'm like, no,
torched.
Oh man! So I had, I'm taking all the soot off it,
Watch that. I've done it. Testify. I've done it.
And let me
accidentally.
I put some extra butter on it to brown it up.
It turns into like a calico looking turkey. Yeah, so these spotches all over it.
So I got it finished and I got it to temp, and I'm like, I just gave him a heds up. I go, look, man. I go. I think I saved it. I go, I'm pretty sure, and I probably don't even tell you this, but there was an incident. So I kept texting him and he wouldn't answer me. And then I ran into him 2 days later and I was like, hey, was that turkey all right? He goes, it tasted a little smoky. He goes, yeah. He goes, it was like campfire smoke.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, man, I'm sorry. So I don't think I even charged him for it. I ate the cost on it. I felt so bad. So
So if you're like us, we only cook turkey one time a year. It's not like you cook it all the time, and you don't want to mess it up because everybody's counting on you.
Yeah, totally.
So
I did do one a couple of years ago. We went to go visit my in-laws, same place up in like South Bend, Indiana, right? And they told me, they go, oh, Dave, we borrowed a smoker from Lisa's dad, right? They drove it over from this other town so that you could do a turkey for Thanksgiving, So they were also going to do some in the oven, but they wanted me to do a smoked one. I'm like, all right, cool, I got you. So it was this old school, I can't remember, I don't know if it's a Weber or what, but I'm sure you've seen it. It's like the red barrel smoker.
It's like R2D2?
Comes apart in like three different parts.
Mountain.
The Weber Smoky Mountain, the Weber's been making those for a long time, but there's a lot of knockoffs.
This was the first one they ever made.
It was like Brinkman had one.
This one said,
ones,
This one, like the receipt was still attached to it. It was like 1943. Like, this sucker was old, right? And I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm sure I can make it work. Well, I'd never cooked in winter conditions before. And this was Indiana in November, and it was snowing that night. And I'm in the back just trying to keep this thing up to temp. And it was just cooking so low. And so I stayed up the whole night fighting with this thing. And I was so nervous about it. But at the end of the day, and every time I cook anything, I don't know if you feel this way. I could, 20 years from now, I'm still going to feel this way. Like almost all my cooks come out great. Like even if it's not perfect, I know it, but the person eating it doesn't know it, right?
Yeah.
Every time I go to cook into something, I think it's going to be like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation where the turkey
disintegrate.
Yeah. So I cut into it, I chopped it up, and I got to tell you, the smoked turkey was a huge hit that year. I think some of my wife's relatives were a little like, oh, well, we'll just cook a turkey too, because they didn't think I was, yeah. And let me tell you, that smoked turkey was gone like that. All right. But I didn't sleep. I was not a good dinner guest at all. I was like falling asleep at dinner. Like,
you've been up for 12 hours.
Yeah, they were probably like, yeah, Christy's husband's drinking again. I was like, no, I've just been slaving over the
they didn't appreciate it. They didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
What you went through.
A mediocre smoked turkey is way better than any other turkey too.
Well, when I was a kid, my dad got into frying them,
Yeah, and my dad, we did too.
So I was like, I'm like, there'll never be a better way to do turkey than fried turkey. I'm like, this is amazing. And then when I smoked one for the first time, I was like, this is really good.
Yeah.
We've been missing out.
Smoke it fried. Have you done that yet?
No, like you smoke it and then you finish it in the fryer?
Yeah, you don't smoke it all the way. You stop it short and then you drop it down in the hot. I mean,
that's amazing.
It makes a really, really great turkey, but it's a little more labor intensive and you got to deal with all the grease. And is it worth it just to do one turkey? If you're going to do a bunch of them, it's really worth it. But if you're just doing one, it's not really worth it.
Yeah, you might blow your house up.
I mean, all that hot grease is dangerous. So.
Yeah. Have you ever had a really bad incident with a flare up or something blowing up or?
Myself, no, but I've been it's been in Memphis in May a couple different years. The team's beside us, and we've the worst thing is when they got these water cookers and they let them go dry, and they're full of whole shoulders or butts. And you got all that grease draining down. The fire's below the water pan. You let that water pan go dry, it's just collecting grease. Mm-hmm. As soon as it gets hot enough, it's going to fire. It's going to flame.
Oh, man.
And so I've seen so many of those been set on fire and burn a tent down. We almost had our tent burnt down one year.
By someone else.
But by a neighbor, just because they, wasn't paying attention, let that water pan, and you could usually smell it when it happens.
Yeah.
But that's the worst I've ever seen. I've had, Wagyu hamburgers. Shell about burnt one of my Traegers up. Well, it didn't hurt it. I mean, but you caught the joker on fire. Because you don't realize when you got a grate full of burgers, and I don't care if they're just 80-20 burgers, but these Wagyu burgers were just raining fat down.
Yeah.
And they get to the flame. Oh, you got inferno. No, as long as you don't, I see a lot of people panic, and I think that's where they go wrong.
Yeah.
If you can get it unplugged and pulled out away from anything and just leave it shut, do not open the lid. Yeah, your food's toast. I mean, but it's not gonna get any worse once you get that flame away from it.
So when we first got the Rectech, over the years I figured out the best way to do the setup and everything, and I had the perfect extension cord, and I knew where to run so when we first did it, I would normally just set it up right in front of the bus. and then there was like a plug that the cord could reach there. So it wasn't very far from the bus. And it also looked cool for pictures, like the bus, the branding was right behind. Yeah. So I cranked it up one time, though, really hot, which I don't like to do with the pellet smokers, even though they claim you could sear, and you can. But for me, it's like there's always grease in smokers. And when you crank it up on those pellet smokers, like you're asking for a fire. Well, one of the guys is like, oh, you're doing burgers? I go, yeah. And he goes, well, I got some Impossible burgers. Can you do some Impossible burgers for me? And who knew that those things were so flammable? But apparently they are.
Really?
Because the second I threw those Impossible burgers on there, dude, that flame went, and it was, I'm like, I'm going to.
No fat in them. What is it? Just the.
I don't know. I don't know what did it. Yeah. I angered it.
You angered the grill. That's what it was.
Maybe it wasn't the Impossible burgers, but I definitely blamed it on those because it didn't do it until I put those on there, you know?
A bag of Doritos will go up like a rocket. So.
But I'm just looking at this and I'm like, I'm about to blow up a very expensive tour bus. Like this is.
Did you have to break out the fire extinguisher or did you just get it away?
No, I did I unplugged it and I just wheeled it away from the bus.
And let it do its thing.
Yeah, and I was just like, all right, well, the food, we'll see what happens.
Have you ever had one backburn on you? I've had a pellet grill backburn where I guess the fire got to the auger, it backed up.
Oh, and then they all
got back in the thing. Yeah. Oh, dude, that was a nightmare.
No, I don't think that.
You just had to. I mean, we started scooping, but the more air you got to it, the more it's going to burn. So the only thing you can do is let it close it down and let it burn out. I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah. No, I haven't had that. You know, I use Rectech, and I'll tell you, man, those Rectechs, they're great. I've definitely pushed the limits of. Where I should have cleaned it out and I get lazy and then I cook on it 10 more times, you know? So I've had some small like grease fires and stuff like that, but it was not the smoker's fault. It was definitely my fault. But yeah, no, those things are pretty good.
What are you cooking on at home now? I know you've got the Rectex for the road and at home. But
so I have a really nice offset. It's a real wacky number. It was like an in-between because I got to go out to the field and pick out which propane tank that he was going to use, you know, and so there was one I think I was going to get like a 170 or something like that, and then he had another one that was like a 250, and I was like, that one looks too big, but that one looks too small, and then there was one that was just like this random shaped like 228, and I'm like, perfect.
It's a Goldilocks.
Yeah. So it's a company called SG Metalworks out there and way out east in LA, and just made me a beautiful smoker, you know. It's got my Meat Dave logo on it, and it's got a hinge on the stack. So if I ever need to, put it on a trailer or something and move it, it makes it easy. And got nice shelves and big firebox, big double insulated firebox. And then I made sure to give it a Miami paint job. He painted it that Miami Vice teal, this night teal, and then scuffed up the paint, make it look a little rugged. I love it. I don't get to use it nearly as much as I would like just because I travel so much. So when I'm in town, I get pretty lazy with the pellet smokers as I have like 4 Rectex. So my whole front yard's like a showroom.
I was going to say, do you have your own outdoor kitchen or?
So I've slowly built out a sports bar in my front yard.
Front yard. Yeah. I like your style.
Not a lot of people have yards.
We did videos in the front yard. Some of my old stuff.
No, that's where all my stuff is. And I love it. I mainly did that because the kids had the backyard where they would play soccer and basketball and everything, and I have a clubhouse built in the backyard. And then also, in LA, like the houses are so scrunched together. So, there's an apartment building on the left of me and an apartment building on the right of me. So I'm like, if I have in the backyard, there's just going to see smoke coming out from behind my house, and people are going to call the fire department all the time. I go, if it's in the front yard, people are going to see it. They're going to know I'm cooking. It's going to be okay, right? So it just kind of started that way. I would cook in the front yard. The kids are in the backyard. And now as I've built it out, it's a really aggressive setup in my front yard. So
are the neighbors cool? Like they come over and hang out with you? Or?
Yeah, I keep everyone's palms literally
greased.
Yeah.
Pork grease.
Everyone's on board. Yeah, everyone's on board. But it's cool. I have a concrete wall, but it's not very tall, right? So you definitely just look over it, But since it's a big, thick concrete wall, I am kind of insulated. I'm not worried about anyone coming in and stealing stuff or messing with anything. But you're not like cut off like if it was a tall wooden fence or something, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm out there checking a brisket at 5 a.m. and the early morning joggers are out jogging. And they're like, what are you cooking today, Dave? And I'm like, oh, it's a brisket. Yeah, all right, we'll come back later. And then the people walking their dogs come through an hour later, and then the kids go into school, and it's just waves of people. And I just love it because in the front yard, it's a conversation piece.
Right.
If it was the backyard, it would just be like, oh, Dave's cooking, and I would never even talk to them, So my front yard has become like a hub for the whole neighborhood. And I built a whole wall and put 2 big screen TVs up with a fire pit area in the front yard and all my smokers. And so when that TV's on, man, people just come over and hang out in our front yard. And,
Your wife's cool with it?
Totally. It's I mean, she probably would
How would
prefer.
you like that shelf?
She'd probably prefer there was fewer smokers in the front yard.
Yeah.
But she understands that it's really cool, like from a social aspect, all our neighbors hang out. And now I got this company to send me a really nice pizza oven. So I built an area for the pizza oven. And it just keeps growing. I'm running out of space, honestly.
You're going to be looking for bigger place before long.
Yeah, I definitely need to figure out how to expand, put a second deck like they do in Memphis in May or something.
Yeah, there you go, upstairs.
But I love the fact that the yard is, kind of where I hang, And then the weather is just perfect 12 months out of the year.
I do envy you there.
Yeah.
I envy you for the weather.
Yeah, it's literally like it rained this past year. It rained for like pretty heavy for like a month and a half, 2 months, which it never happens, right? And so at one point I told my wife, I was like, I'm kind of depressed.
Just bummed.
Yeah, I can't figure it out. I go, everything's going good. Everyone's happy, healthy. I'm like, I'm seriously, I feel depressed. She goes, it's because it's been raining. She's like, you're like shoved. You've actually been home and off the road, and you've been inside. Normally, you're outside with the neighbors watching TV in the front yard, like every night. And she's like, you're just inside, like by yourself. So it makes sense,
So barbecue's therapy, man. It's
100%, absolutely, for sure. But yeah, would love to have you guys to the front yard sometime.
Oh, dude. I've only been to California one time. So
really?
I need a good excuse to go back.
So here's let me pitch this to you, and then maybe we could spitball it over some time. Just noodle on it, and then give me a call when ideas pop into your head. But I actually produced a comedy festival in my neighborhood, El Segundo, called it the Gundo Comedy Festival. And I did that for 5 years, and then the pandemic kind of shut it down. And I'll bring it back, but I haven't. It's been on hiatus, and I've been busy and whatever. So we just have such cool venues around town, you know what I mean? And so I just couldn't stop thinking about it. This would be a cool place for a comedy festival, And it grew, and it was just a ton of fun, right? I'm thinking about when I bring it back, I think I'm going to turn it into a comedy and barbecue festival. Combine both worlds. Invite you guys. So invite all my barbecue peeps to come, and then book all the comics. And we can do barbecue events during the day and have the comics judge or be a part of it. And then do comedy shows at night and have the barbecue people judge or be special guests and a part of it.
That would be cool, man. I need to brainstorm that and come up with some ideas on what you could do. But
yeah,
I'm down. Down to go to California show.
Yeah. And
for that, yeah.
I think it would be a good time. I think it would be a lot of fun. And it would be a lot of fun. Like I said, I like combining the two worlds. So it'd be like, and I'm not going to throw just a regular old, there's so many regular comedy festivals and so many regular barbecue festivals. I'm not going to do either better than anybody at this point. I'm not going to, but this, bringing them both together, it would be cool to have like those elements together, Yeah. I also want to get like a Memphis in May or one of these barbecue festivals to build take one of the tents and build me a comedy club. So then, like, what if you're at Memphis in May? I know there's not a lot of time and everyone's competing, whatever, but it'd be pretty cool if you could, like, go hop in for 30 minutes and watch a 30-minute comedy show.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, instead of having a little kiss, I'd rather go see you tell some jokes.
Yeah.
No offense, little kiss.
They had little Aussie, too.
Yeah, they have little Aussie, too. So
yeah, I think that would be cool, man. I want to keep getting more involved with these stuff and hopefully get some.
I love the comedy aspect with barbecue
because
works. It really does work.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I think of going to a comedy, it's more, it's not like a concert where you're standing up and there's, different type of atmosphere. A comedy show, most of the time you go and you sit down and you have a good time. It goes great if you're having barbecue dinner or got something going on with it, and you can sit down, listen to some comedy and have a good time. I mean,
yeah, there's a social element to it. And I think that, I don't know, the barbecue. So the one thing I am very cautious of when I do my monthly show in my neighborhood is I don't do giant portions because I don't want people like eating a huge plate of barbecue and then and then just being like falling asleep. There, you know, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna give you some really good food, but I'm gonna give you a reasonable amount.
Yeah,
it will make you happy. But
do you ever do late night barbecue like after the shows?
Oh yeah,
because I can see that being a big thing.
Well, I mean that's
out, and you've got like your food truck style stuff out there, but it's a barbecue truck or something.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I definitely do that for us. Like when I'm on the tour bus, you know, we don't want to eat a ton of barbecue before the show. That was always more of like a treat after the show, you know. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. Like you know, do a show and then like people
late night barbecue.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no wrong way to do it, buddy.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate you showing up, coming out, taking time out of your day, doing the podcast with us.
Coming through Memphis and and coming back and checking in, man. Anytime you come through this area,
I'm in, dude.
You know you got an open invite, dude. We got to hang out.
Well, we're gonna hang out in Key West next year. You guys are definitely coming. Put it on the calendar.
I need to get set up on that so we can get there next year.
Yeah. You gotta come do that. And then when I start the
we got a comedy show to play in around
the
here.
El Segundo comedy and the HowToBBQRight comedy showcase.
Yep. And then we're gonna do the HowToBBQRight.
Can you get some comedians to come if we can get it?
Totally, man. We just got to plan it right. You know, we got to figure out like what the venue we can get, what we can charge for tickets, so that we know what budget we have to bring the comics in, show them a good time.
Do the barbecue beforehand. Oh, I'm already.
Well, we'll do content. We'll do content like this during the day since we got them in town. We'll shoot some videos where we're teaching them how to do it, right? And then we'll do we'll eat some barbecue, right? And then we'll do the show, and then we can even do like we did when I did the show here. We do a Q&A.
Yeah.
There's no bad ideas here.
We're working on that. Man. We're booking it.
I like it.
All right. Well, Dave,
where can people find you?
Yeah, tell them where they can find you, man.
So, social media is mostly Instagram is at Dave W Comedy. And then I actually just started a new Instagram account where I'm going to start filtering more of my specific barbecue stuff. And that's at Meat Dave BBQ. My podcast is called Meat Dave, MEAT Dave. You can find that on my Meat Dave YouTube channel or pretty much anywhere that you consume podcasts. If you go to my website, davewilliamsoncomedy.com, then I have a link tree to that podcast. I have another podcast, if you like podcasts, with my buddy Forrest Shaw. It's more of a comedy podcast. We talk about, growing up in Florida. A lot of our stories end up being about being from Florida and Miami. And
imagine there's a bunch.
Yeah, but it's really just me annoying him for an hour is mostly what it is. Because he's like a kind of a curmudgeon and I'm super positive. So it's just me like hitting his buttons where he's like, did you see what Aaron Rodgers did? And I'm like, oh, I think he's the best. Like, like even if I don't, I just know that he'll
see him drop his tequila bomb the other day?
No. Oh, yeah, I did see that. Is that what that was? I saw it, but it didn't say what it was.
No, he said that whenever he meets that dude, I forget who it was that gave it to him, but he gives him a bottle of tequila every time. And he was just going to.
He spilled half of it.
Dab somebody up. He dropped it, spilled half of it. He was pissed. He spilled his tequila.
Yeah, I bet.
And then everybody was saying, social media, you get all these conspiracies. It was a bong. He's talking around a bong.
It's the tears of babies and some ayahuasca trip or something. Yeah. But and then my tour dates are on DaveWilliamsonComedy.com as well. Off the top of my head, in December, I'm going to be in Las Vegas the first week of December. Then I'm going to be up in Winnipeg, Canada. I'm going to be in Orlando on the Wednesday in between Christmas and New Year's. So I got a lot of dates coming up. Hope to see you guys out there.
Well, Dave, man, thanks again for coming by. We always have a good time, and y'all get out there and see him on the road and check out.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And buy some Meat Dave all-purpose seasoning and rum.
Try that rub with that salmon recipe.
DaveWilliamsonComedy.com.
Hey, we appreciate y'all listening to the HowToBBQRight Podcast today, and Shell and I will be back.
Not next week.
Not next week because it's Thanksgiving. Yeah. But the week after, we'll be
Happy
back
Thanksgiving.
again. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Turkey Day. Gobble, gobble.
We gone.